Welcome to the I Work For Him podcast. I'm Michael Miracle, producer of the I Work For Him radio program, the voice of the faith and work movement. Our mission is to transform the workplace of every Christian into a mission field. What does that look like in your workplace? Let's find out right now.
You've tuned into I Work For Him, the mouthpiece for the faith and work movement right here in the United States of America. We are your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg.
Happy to be with you all today, and I'm excited for what we have in store. And I know, Jim, you're going to do a great job laying it up, but I think that today is going to be some great...
No, today I'm not going to.
You're not going to lay it up?
I'm not going to do a good job at it.
Oh, you do a good job of it every day.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So never mind what I was going to say, but no, I'm excited to hear something new, a new perspective. I think that will really help people just to live out their faith in their work. So with taking care of themselves. So thank you for joining us today. And I just encourage you, go to our website, iworkforhim.com, and there you can find all kinds of resources for you that can help you in living out your faith in your work. So iworkforhim.com, all of our social links are there, all the podcast platforms are there. Get connected. We want to hear from you.
All right, it's simple. Eat well, be well, feel well, but serve well. Just like that, you could change your life. Okay, maybe in your own power, it's not that simple, but in God's power and the wisdom found in all the places God has passed on in the Bible and in nature, you can live well and feel well, so daily serve well in your work. Not that I know anything about this because I love Mountain Dew, and I'm pretty sure our guest would say that that isn't part of the be well part, that's not necessarily a be well drink. Ginger Hill joins us today from goodhealthforgoodworks.org. She's going to share what God is teaching her, and she's going to be teaching others about nutrition and living so they can serve well in the work. Ginger Hill, welcome to I Work For Him.
Thank you so much. I was going to talk to you about that Mountain Dew, but I will restrain myself.
You could talk all you want. I just hate for you to waste any time because it's not going to do any good at this point in time. I am very much sure. Okay, Ginger, we're going to talk all about how you connect your faith to your work and how you help people connect their health to their work. But first, we want to know, why did you become a Jesus follower?
Oh, wow. Great question. Well, I actually became a Christian at a very young age when I went to church camp, but that doesn't mean that time that I became a Jesus follower. In fact, for most of my young adult years, I was a Ginger follower. I was Ginger with a capital G, and I followed my own way and what I wanted to do. And as I went through my college years and tried to do things my own way, I found out that I wasn't doing such a great job. And one day I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, is this really who I want to be? And it wasn't. And that's the journey that brought me back to Christ, in getting back in touch with my salvation and what I knew about Jesus, but moving me to the point of realizing that Jesus has a better plan for my life than I do. And that following him was a way that I could be the person I was intended to be.
Very cool.
That's so good because so many of us, we think we're self-sufficient, but what a blessing that you had those roots to go back to and be able to connect that better. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So you talked about going to college and things like that. And I don't know if if you're like us, sometimes what we did in college isn't where we ended up in our career, but what is it that you're doing today?
So I work in the health and wellness industry, and I help people, employers and employees, to leverage their health so that they can do what they are intended to do in the workplace really well. I've always been interested in healthcare, but I'm really interested in helping people stay well so that they can serve well, because our health is a part of our effective service for Christ. Whether we're working in a Christian nonprofit or we're working in a secular marketplace, it doesn't matter. Either place, we need to serve with excellence, and us being physically, mentally, and spiritually well is a part of that.
We're talking today with Ginger Hill from goodhealthforgoodworks.org, goodhealthforgoodworks.org. I'd recommend you check her out online and see what she can do for you or your organization. All right, Ginger, so how did the Lord lead you into talking about good health? Was there something in your life that caused you to be brought to your knees and said, okay, Lord, I'll stop drinking. I'll stop eating all the ding-dongs. I'll stop eating the Twinkies. What was it?
Well, for me, it wasn't such a personal thing. It was more of a family thing. So, I've always been interested in biological sciences and health and that kind of thing. But a big factor for me is that I have a severely disabled brother who I have watched him go through his life with limitations that he can't control. And so whenever I see people being limited by something that they can control, and a lot of aspects of health we can control, that's something that really grieves me. So that's kind of my personal why as to why this is very important for me.
Okay, wait a minute. Oh, so there are some aspects of life and health that we can control. Like what?
Well, we can control our daily choices. We can control how much sleep we get, what we eat, whether or not we move our body, how we manage stress. Those are things we all control, but there are things we don't control, such as our genetic background. That's kind of given to us, and we have to deal with that. But that's a small part. There is a lot that we can control and leverage so that we can effectively do the good works that God has called us to do.
One of the things I hear you saying is I would consider it to be very proactive, and we don't necessarily always live in a proactive culture, especially around medical needs. So how do you help people make that switch from, just taking care of the things that are hurting to being proactive?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's a hard switch to make, because you're right. We are very much based on the medical model, right? When something's broken, we fix it. But I think if we look at it not in terms of just avoiding illness, but if we look at it in terms of being as effective as we can be, so we can be effective servants for Christ and good ambassadors, that does take on a proactive kind of nature. That's not about just avoiding sickness. That's about being as good as I can, doing the best I can with what God has given me right now.
All right. So first of all, I'm feeling picked on. You guys are talking about this healthy living stuff.
That must just be a conviction,
when you
Jim.
when you run your own non-Christian nonprofit, how does healthy living fit into that? Because we have not found that yet. But I don't want you to answer that question today, Ginger, because it's not about us.
Just going to say sign up for something.
That's right. All right, so why don't you give us an example? I mean, I got lots more questions I want to ask, but why don't you give me an example of what you do? Because I'm a little confused yet on what you really do, because I understand that God's laid on your heart a gifting for helping people live well. As I did, you said you want people to be well. They can live well. Let's see, where was that? Because that be well and live well and serve well. I mean, I can't remember all the different things off your website, but they were all related. I screwed it up. I'm sorry. What is it that you actually say on your website?
Be well, feel well, serve well. That's okay.
Be well, feel well, serve well. I promise I'll memorize that. Okay, so give us an example of what you actually do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I basically work with organizations in one of three ways. One thing I do are wellness seminars, where I go in and talk to employee groups about the importance of practicing good health habits throughout their workday. A lot of times when we think of health habits, we think about what we do at home, but we actually spend a great deal of time at work. So what we do there matters as well. So I do speaking. I also do individualized coaching, where I work with people within the workplace who are maybe struggling to balance their life and their job and good health. And we talk about specific strategies and things that they can do, small steps during the workday that will help them. And then I also work with organizations in talking with them about the environment and culture that they create, because many times employers will say, yeah, sure, I want to have a healthy workforce. And sometimes they'll even bring in wellness services. But then when you look at the culture and the environment of the organization, it doesn't necessarily support that. So I talk with them a little bit about, taking a look at their own support and culture. Does that help or hinder your employees in staying well so they can do their work well?
So, for example, you have employee meetings and you're bringing in pastries and donuts and things like that,
Yes.
like that kind of culture where it's expected.
What's wrong with that? Donuts are a gift from God.
But we don't think about it. We think, oh, we want all this healthy, but then you might have vending machines full of stuff, and yeah, I'm not saying.
Well, let her tell the story. Okay. I feel like
that's a perfect example. You're right.
I was thinking, why did we have Ginger on the show today?
Sorry, I got a bad connection. We're done for the day. So seriously, Ginger, so talk about how when you're having these meetings with organizations and you are presenting the ideas about be well, feel well, serve well. And again, we're talking with Ginger Hill from goodhealthforgoodworks.org. Mm-hmm. Ginger, right after the break, I want you to answer this question. How does your faith impact what you do on a day-to-day basis? We'll be right back with more from Ginger Hill.
Unlike Jim, I didn't dream of being on camera. I was content to play piano and sing in a choir. Who knew that today Jim and I would have interviewed over 3,000 people and created tons of podcasts and videos, helping Christians to unlock God's purpose for you and your work. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. I work for him.
All right, now we're back with Ginger Hill from goodhealthforgoodworks.org. Love for you to check her out. We ran into Ginger a little earlier this year at a conference, and we were super impressed with her enthusiasm for helping people be well, feel well, so they can serve well. Mm-hmm. And it's all about what are the healthy habits that we can adopt that allow us to serve in the kingdom more effectively. Obviously, we're all going to die on the same day that we're going to die that God said we're going to die.
Right.
But between here and that day, there's a certain level of living that we can improve upon between now and the end. So, I mean, Ginger, how does your faith fit into your whole helping organizations and companies adopt a culture of healthiness so that people can serve well? Isn't that kind of self-serving too? Okay, anyway, run with this somewhere.
Well, think about Ephesians 2:10. Where it says that God has good works that he has prepared in advance for us to do. We all have God-given assignments at home or at work. So part of my faith journey is that I feel so convicted that we need to leverage good health so that we can effectively do those good works that God has called us to do. Because if all of us are out there effectively executing our assignments that God has given us, we're going to transform the world.
So talk to me about the conversations. I mean, do you only work in Christian organizations, or do you work in organizations that aren't Christian organizations? No,
I work with both Christian organizations and, what we would call the secular marketplace, whatever that means, right? But, honestly, it doesn't matter where we are, whether we're in a Christian organization or secular marketplace. As Christians, we are called to do our good works and effectively fulfill our assignments. So either way, the way that we take care of ourselves while we're here before that day that we die, that matters.
We always say here, and I work for him, that everybody around you should be benefiting from your faith, whether they believe in Jesus or not. That because of the Holy Spirit in us and because of the transformative process that's going on in our lives, it's only 4 syllables, we're good. Transformative process that's going on in our lives, that that everybody around us should be benefiting. And so that's really what you're saying, is that these corporations that are not necessarily run by people who know or love Jesus, they're benefiting, all the people are benefiting because of Jesus in you, Ginger Hill. So Martha, you wanted to ask a question, I interrupted you.
Well, yeah, so on I Work for Him, we often talk about one of the things we believe that God calls us to do, and you've kind of alluded to this, is be excellent in our work. Yeah. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, and if we're exhausted, or we're whatever that might be that is self-inflicted in a sense, then it's hard to do our work with excellence. And I want you to speak to that to the listener right now, because I think they need to be encouraged that there's a reason to take some initiative in this area. So can you talk about that?
I absolutely agree with that. And I agree with that. We are called to work with excellence. People should look at us and say, wow, how is it you do what you do and you do it so well, right? So supporting myself mentally, physically, and spiritually is a big part of that. But it's not only the quality of our work, it's who we are as we're doing that work. Mm-hmm. So think about yourself in the workplace. Who are you when you don't get enough rest? Who are you when you haven't been taking care of yourself and you're dragging through the day? I don't know about you, I am not very pleasant to be around. And it's harder for me to be a positive representative of Christ when I am not taking care of myself. So it's the quality of our work, but it's also what we represent and who we are as we go about doing those things.
I don't know what she's talking about when we're tired and cranky and smelly, but I'm fine. I'm just fine.
Those days you go in your office and shut the door. And
no, it's too hot when you do that. All right. We're talking today with Ginger Hill from goodhealthforgoodworks.org. It's all about being well, so you feeling well, so you can serving well. That's what it is. Be well, so you feel well, so you serve well. This is all about our ministry in our workplace. And as everybody knows, your workplace, it's your mission field. And in that mission field, you and me may be the only Jesus our coworkers and employees may ever meet. So this is really important. Be well so you feel well so you can serve well. Is any of this actually biblical, though?
Well, that's a really good question. So if you look at it in terms of specifics, such as thou shalt eat your broccoli, thou shalt not, skip on sleep or whatever, no, that is not in the Bible, right? I think we can acknowledge
thing. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little laying.
Yeah, you're right. I'll give you that. You're right. You're right.
And the broccoli verse is in First Hesitations.
Right. So in terms of specifics, I don't think we can look at scripture and make really specific health guidelines. However, there is the biblical principle of stewardship, that we're supposed to use whatever resource God has given us and leverage it for its maximum value for the expansion of God's kingdom. And I'm a firm believer that health is a resource, just like money, time, or anything else that God gives us to do the good works that he has called us to do. So whatever degree of health that God has blessed me with, I have a responsibility to make the most of that so that I can have the greatest impact for his kingdom.
So what is something that our listeners and ourselves could do today
Don't you touch
that would make a difference, that would make us see, just to get a little glimpse of what it would mean to steward our health a little bit better?
Ooh.
Yeah, and I promise I won't touch the Mountain Dew.
I am drinking a smoothie for the audience to say, there's a smoothie in the studio with me today, and it's got real fruit and no extra added sugar.
That's right.
I love it. I love it.
Give us a couple of practical steps, like Martha said.
So, when we talk about good health, a lot of people think in terms of doing really big things, right? Big life overhauls. We love the Biggest Loser contest and that kind of thing. And that's actually the worst approach to take, because the research shows that we are better at changing our behavior for the long haul when we take one small step at a time over a period of time. So the question would be, what are some of those small steps that we could take? Well, let me give you an example from my life. One small thing that I do that makes a huge impact on my health is that when I have dinner, I eat off of the salad plate instead of the dinner plate, right? Because if you look at plates, plate sizes have changed, right? So if I eat off of a salad plate, I know that I'm not going to be overeating. Now, that's not a hard thing to do, to use a salad plate instead of a dinner plate.
No, Ginger.
You can fill the plate. It's a salad plate. It's okay. Also in terms of movement, getting some movement every day, even if it's only 10 minutes. Maybe you don't have time for a 45-minute workout. That's fine. But get 10 minutes of movement, because that counts. Things like sleep. The thing I'm working on right now that I'm struggling with is getting myself up to the bedroom at 10 p.m. so that I get a good night's sleep. I've kind of fallen in love with YouTube recently. I don't know why, but I'm watching a lot of YouTube. And
as long as you're looking at I Work for Him YouTube channel, we're totally golden with that.
There you go. But focusing on some of those small things, it doesn't have to be a big, complicated thing, but look at your own life. What do you need to work on? If it's a matter of I'm overeating, try doing the salad plate thing. If I don't have enough energy, work on the bedtime and getting 10 minutes of activity every day. Small steps make a big difference over time.
Oh.
That's so good, and especially because a lot of people's lives have really been disrupted in the last 6 months, and nothing is normal. I mean, even Jim, I was thinking about it. You know, we moved a little over a year ago from a house that had 2 flights of stairs to a flat home with no stairs in it.
We missed the stairs.
And I know that I feel a difference because I don't get that built-in stairmaster every day.
Right.
We're going to build stairs. We're going to build some stairs. Here we are.
Okay.
We're going to build
Okay.
stairs. I think it's a great idea.
But we don't think about sometimes we're not getting out of the house as much, or we're not doing this as much or that as much, or sitting on calls instead of going places. And it does wear on our bodies, and we need to be proactive. So great, easy steps, not so much about training for a marathon as it is.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, it's not about being athletic or looking perfect or anything like that. It's about having that energy and endurance so that we can do excellent work and be good ambassadors while we're doing it.
Well, and see, that's the whole point. People go, why are you talking about health stuff on I Work For Him? We know, Jim, we know you drink Mountain Dew. We're talking about healthy living because it helps us to serve more effectively. And as Martha said earlier, to be excellent at our work, and I went right to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, of course, be excellent to each other.
Yes.
I'm not going to say the second half of that statement, but be well so you can feel well, so you can serve well. That's what Ginger Hill and goodhealthforgoodworks.org is all about. Ginger Hill, fantastic conversation. People, when they go out to the website, do you have practical tips out there, or do you get any like personal stuff, or is it only for organizations?
It's primarily for organizations. There's a newsletter articles that organizations can put in their employee newsletters and that kind of thing. So if you're an organization that's really looking to support your employees and their well-being so that they can do their God-given assignments well, take a look at the website and you'll find some resources there.
So, fruit dispensers at work, along with water and, smoothie makers instead of coffee makers, things like that, all those kind of great things. Ginger Hill, thank you so much for being on I Work For Him today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Make sure you check her out online, goodhealthforgoodworks.org. You've been listening to I Work For Him with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. We're Christ followers. Our workplace, it's our mission field. But ultimately, I work for Him.
Thank you for listening to the I Work For Him podcast with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. Please visit iworkforhim.com to learn more about connecting your faith and work, to join the I Work For Him Nation, or subscribe to our weekly blog. You can also follow us on social media at I Work For Him to stay up to date and meet our guests. If today's message spoke to you, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. Your review will launch more workplace missionaries across America. That's at I Work For Him and online, iworkforhim.com. I work the number 4him.com.